Richards, and I am here with a person with lived experience of long COVID. I've been proud to be part of the long COVID co-production groups for the last 3 years, from the first meeting it started from, which does seem like it's gone really fast. So, back in 2020, I was a busy mum, 2 children, a 6 and a 4-year-old, deputy head teacher in a primary school 4 days a week, with enough work, 7 obviously. I enjoyed days out with my family and obviously visit to the theatre. I do love a good musical. I never had any of the symptoms on the TV. I actually probably shouldn't have had a COVID test. But I had every single symptom on the secondary list that they didn't advertise. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks in bed. A month later, I did a couple of hours work from home, and I felt like I'd been reinfected all over again. Another month passed, I was trying to do bits and bits and bits from home, and my husband was getting crosser and crosser and crosser at me. He took me to the doctor, and they did a suite of blood tests, as Lindsay pointed out, and everything came back that I was fine. Well, let me tell you, I was so far away from being fine, I couldn't do anything. My parents would have to come every single day to look after my children and to look after me. One day will forever stick in my memory, which is the day my parents had been there all day. They cooked the tea, they put them in the bath. My husband was working late, he just started his own business before I got ill. And my mum said, "Will you be okay? Just put the children to bed if we go home." And I was like, "Of course I'll be absolutely fine." Well, I couldn't even make it to the top of the stairs. I'd collapsed in a heap and had my 6-year-old begging for my mobile phone to phone an ambulance or to phone anyone for help. Whereas I had to just turn around and ask my 6 and 4-year-old to put me to bed. It's at that point I realised how ill I really was. So in September 2021, a year later, I was ready to start going back to work slowly because of the support I'd already received. At this time, I was invited to be part of co-production group and applied to the funding to help the people of Lincolnshire experiencing long COVID as an expert patient. Well, I'd never heard of co-production or what an expert patient was, but I was passionate about getting help as I felt so grateful that I'd had it. And I was very much on the road to recovery. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of my family first of all, because I literally relied on them for everything. Finding people who had similar symptoms, were struggling like I did, and then having specialised support from the chronic fatigue service who understood what I was telling them and how to educate me to learn what my body was telling me. First thing I was asked as part of co-production was what I felt was needed in the bid for the funding. One of my first worries I remember sharing was about people living with this condition was having someone to talk to. Someone would understand you and not tell you it's all in your head. Explaining that rehab had worked for me because the people delivering the sessions that I attended understood my limitations, and so that education providers like yourselves happened and that employers also understood what was going on. That was really important. That the information out there on long COVID could be found easily. I was far too fatigued to go searching for this stuff. Even just talking to somebody would exhaust me. So I needed something in little chunks and at a click of a button. But the main thing that I was really passionate about was that people like me may have long COVID. I wasn't hospitalised. I didn't have the 3 symptoms on the list on the TV. But there were so many other symptoms and so many other conditions that were linked to it that I needed people to understand. And that those people needed that support. And that you can do this in your own home, tiny steps at a time. During co-production, I always felt heard. I could see how myself and others living with lived experience were shaping the journey the project took. So finally, thanks to everyone for asking me to be involved from the start, sticking with me when I suggested something new, or said, no, let's not do that. The project demonstrates that co-production is a powerful tool, and I'm proud to be part of it. I wanted to finish by saying I consider myself living my life how I want to. I'm busy at school, back visiting my favourite holiday spots, seeing all the shows I can manage, but most importantly be being there for my family. So if you take anything away from what's the work's been committed from this project, and from my story, I want to take away one word: hope. Together, we can and we are making a difference.